Welcome into the Flip Podcast, Financial and Leadership Intelligence with Purpose. My name is Kurt Mueller. I am the host of this show. And today we welcome in Samantha Irwin. Samantha is a passionate supporter of small and mid-sized businesses. Please take some time and connect with her. Check out her website. That is www.Kaizen, spelled Kaizen.Zone. Samantha, welcome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I am delighted to be here.
Yes, considering that you are on Pacific time and it's 7 a.m., I love the energy that's coming through the screen. So this should be a good conversation.
People are going to be haters or going to be lovers right now with this next statement. I don't even drink coffee. So, I have some occasionally, but I have not had any this morning. I don't usually.
That is awesome. Well, so spend a few minutes and just educate our listeners on your background, where this passion comes from, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's see, passionate, supportive business. Always have been interested in business. I started out though in teaching. So I have my master's of arts in teaching. And I was a middle school teacher for 13 years and I loved it, which tells you a bit more about my personality. I did use love in middle school in the same sentence. And during that tenure, I always had my hand in business in one way or another. After about 13 years, I decided to jump full-time into business. And I started to look, a couple years before, started to look and figure out what is it that is my passion. I want to delve into this. I thought, you know what, let's marry some of my skills and my passion and do a wedding venue. So I started to look for venues and there were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of closed doors. Ended up walking into the back door of a hotel in a tiny town that was 40 minutes away from us. And that began my business journey right there. My heart just soared and I stopped myself and I threw up a Hail Mary prayer and I said, if this is it, just open up all the doors. And open they did. It was May when I walked in the back door with the then owner. I had resigned my teaching mid-June. We'd gotten financing and we moved out of our home in mid-August. My husband started commuting to his job. We moved out of our home, had a renter, and moved into my parents' trailer in the parking lot with a dog and a cat and started the restoration work on my now business dream, which I can elaborate on. So that's been my journey.
So take us back then. Take us back to the mindset, right? Because I'm sure that took a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of guts to leave behind what you enjoyed doing and step into the unknown and have really no idea whether it was going to work, right? So what was the mindset there that propelled you forward?
Well, I could see the vision from the get-go. I just knew it would work. I could see the building that I had walked into in November. They had tried to auction off the building and the furniture because they had done a lot of structural renovation work and had, it opened now and again. And the town was population 600 people at the time. And it's probably 650 now, maybe. And it is 2 hours from any major metropolis. So the clients would come from a space 2 hours away. It had, like I said, it had no furniture. There was an acre of grounds that needed landscaping. And it was in this tiny town of 600. I did have one of my friends that said to me when I was super excited about this, they said that I was crazy. And I quickly distanced myself from that person and thought, no, you're the crazy one. Right. So, in this venture, it just, there was a lot of prayer and a lot of open doors. And I just took that as full throttle jump in. I wasn't sure exactly how it would work, but I could see what it would look like. It was so much fun. I could see what it would look like, the space itself. I could see the potential for the town and for that area because there are over 300 days of sunshine a year. And it's within 2 hours of places that have over 40 inches of annual rainfall. So for weddings and events and things like that. It was amazing. And then this gorgeous 3-story brick building. It was beautiful, and there was no TV, no elevator, just a place to disconnect. So when you say, with doubts, there were more doubts along the way, not really doubts of when I started, because the doors just rolled open fast. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so obviously there was ups and downs throughout your journey and hurdles to overcome. What were some of the lessons though, as you saw the vision and you jumped all in, you didn't really hesitate, went all in. What were some of those lessons and challenges along the way that would be helpful to know for listeners that are just starting out?
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work, which I'm not afraid of, but there were times where, I was fueling on energy. You're sanding in October, stripping woodwork in October, and it's freezing cold. You have no windows, and you just continue to press into the dream. And I mean, there was a lot of prayer. There was support from people. Surrounded myself with positive people, positive books and things like that. I think that other lessons that I learned, besides making sure that what is that phrase where you can't soar with the eagles if you hang with the turkeys, right?
Right. Yep,
Mindset's huge.
I like that.
Mindset is huge. And Kaizen, my business name, actually means continual improvement, which is something that's my mantra for my life as well. So, what you put into your head, what I put into my head is what comes out. If I'm putting a bunch of garbage in from binge watching some horrible show, is that really serving my overall purpose? I'm not saying that I don't do it on occasion, but I find it really important to make sure that I'm feeding my mind with books and podcasts and people that are in a space where I want to be or I want to grow into. So that was a huge lesson, or just something I would say I think that's important for life. Honestly, we never stop learning.
Right.
Another lesson with business was, it hadn't been open since the 40s. So I had a bit of a monumental task. Right. I learned again and again that it takes me probably 3 times as long as I think it's going to take to do something, to accomplish something. So we started in on this restoration process, and I thought, we moved in mid-August. So I had a lot of cosmetic restoration to do, a lot of, repointing or reglazing the windows, plaster repair, a ton of stripping woodwork. And this was in 2006 when I couldn't hire a company to come do it because everybody was in the, chewing the fat with cherry picking businesses. Not businesses, but work. And so jumped in to do it. And I learned also that, let's see, back to your question, that, I didn't get ready in when I thought we weren't open for Thanksgiving. We weren't open for Christmas. We weren't open for New Year's. And then it was Valentine's Day. And a big thing that my aunt said is just set a date. She said, just set a date and you'll be open. Right. And it was June 23rd. That was our first wedding. And June 22nd at 10 p.m., we're getting it done by the lights of the truck outside, just pulling the rest of the things off the pond. So that was just get it done. That was a big thing. And then another big lesson that I learned was marketing. You always have to do customer acquisition, right? You always need to have good marketing to bring people in, but it doesn't mean squat if you can't keep them. So just like when I got my teaching degree, we were in this amazing intellectual experiment, getting our master's, talking about all these phenomenal lessons and how you're going to reach people. And it's all about, I remember going into teaching at the first time I walked into a classroom doing my practicum way back when, with just armed with, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to do all this amazing thing. And yes, that's important. And the rubber hit the road when I realized none of that stuff means anything if I can't manage this classroom.
Right.
That was it. And the same thing with business. None of that marketing means anything if I cannot keep the customers and make them happy. That was huge.
So how did you transition then from taking that leap and effectively, redoing an older historic property into a wedding venue, and then transitioning from there into, as you say, passionately supporting small and medium-sized businesses? How did that transition take place? And was the mindset still the same during those transitions?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I don't own the hotel anymore. We had some family issues we needed to be more present for. And so we did sell it. And my road to doing what I do now was a little more bumpy. It wasn't as clear as it was when I first started the hotel. Just to be quite frank, it's a lot of searching, like, what's my passion? What's my mission? What's my purpose? And I found that, like my business name is Kaizen, it's continual improvement. I strongly believe that all of our experiences build into what we are today, and we continue to move forward. So I combine my teaching passion with my business passion and the things that I learned in business. And that's how I came to be a business coaching consultant, and specifically with supporting creating a culture and training teams about what their impact is. Because when I looked back, people told us all the time, they said, you should write a book on hospitality, which, I have started a couple times and I haven't finished. Right. Even a customer came in and said, here's the name for your book. You need to write this. If you don't do it, I'm doing it for you. And our team that we had, I learned by doing that, you don't have to spend a lot of money, or you don't want to waste your money with marketing if you can't keep them. You have to serve the customer well. And that's really what I love, making those connections with people, whether it's the guests or with my staff. They're fascinating. And I met so many people that if I hadn't had that attitude of wondering about that person in front of us or front of me, I met some amazing people that I would never have met in my other life, just because, I had to learn not to judge a book by its cover. So now I combine those, and I really, really, really support and love to support small businesses in helping them to overcome the obstacles we overcame with the staff training, with creating a customer-centric culture. You don't have to have high employee turnover. There's ways to fix that. You don't have to have bumps on a log. Your people can be engaged. You can leave your business and still have training that makes your staff to be really an important part of growing your business.
So what are some of if we camp out on that for a second, what are some of the do's and don'ts that you've seen, in your experience in working with small to medium-sized businesses and business owners? What are some of the do's and don'ts when we talk about, building culture and customer retention and low employee turnover? Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah. It's from my own experience, and then from experience watching my clients struggle with these same things. And then, as everybody can relate, if you are a customer, right, you can have these same experiences. Oh gosh, repeat your question again. The train left the building so fast it flew out. I'm like, what was that? A blip? I just had a birthday. Crap. Maybe that's what happened.
Just the do's and don'ts, right? From a culture building standpoint, customer retention, employee retention.
Got it. Culture and employee standpoint. One of the things that we did every year, do's and don'ts. You can't stop at onboarding. You have to continue training. And oftentimes you can't just train the tasks, you have to train the skills. And I get it. Training the tasks is so much easier, right? You train people how to do the thing, what the process is, what you're, how to do, what if they're making the coffee, how to make the coffee, or whatever it is. People, they find it's easier to train the tasks because they're predictable. They're on paper. They're easy, right? They are static. it's difficult to train people because people are like their own little planets going around your planet where asteroids are hitting them, right? They are so unpredictable. So one of the big things is to train the culture. And there's lots of different ways from teaching. This is where I get pretty excited. From teaching, there's lots of different ways to train the culture. You don't have to be an expert yourself. We picked up books and did book studies. We did the first book, the one we read almost every year, was Hug Your Customers by Jack Mitchell. And I have a book review on that. There's Setting the Table by Danny Myers, another one that's super fun. If Disney ran your hospital, which we had a hotel, but still super applicable. That training, you have to tackle that training piece, and you have to tackle it consistently. Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to continually do a slow drip to train your staff in order to equip them to have great customer experiences. You have to have that customer retention. And honestly, when you hone in on your ideal community and you serve them well, it is the smartest marketing. Because if you are my ideal community right there, you're my ideal customer, you hang out with people just like you. You know all the people that I want to have in my business. What better way to find them instead of spending 6 to 7 times more money acquiring those customers that you know? It costs 6 to 7 times more money to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing one. It's smart marketing dollars spent if I serve you well, and then you help me access the people that you know because they are my ideal community.
Right. It's that you're what's the old adage, marlins swim with other marlins, right?
Yeah.
Panfish swim with panfish. So if you want a certain caliber of people, they're likely all going to hang out in the same groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you serve those people well, they are happy. They're, like excited to refer you because, one of the testimonies we had, and I'm not saying it was smooth sailing, right? I learned a lot. But I want to share the wins so people can say, oh, what did you do? And then how do we do that? One of the wins was there was a guest who had returned to our hotel that they had a 2-hour drive and they returned 10 times within 3 years.
Wow.
And remember, we're in a town of 600 people. It's not like they're coming for, the theater or something like that.
Right.
And that return, that was huge. That was key and met so many phenomenal people.
Now, as far as, you talked about training the culture and not necessarily training the task. I mean, training task is important, but really focusing on the culture. What about the retention side? Did you find that adequate or I should say excellent training also led to better employee retention?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Another big lesson that I learned, a hard lesson, was to become a proactive and not a reactive hiring person. Because traditionally, like with the hotel business, it's seasonal. And so I had to have some seasonal staff. Or I would wait until I needed those staff and then I'd start to look for them. Or you'd wait till somebody says, hey, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. And 2 weeks is not enough time to find what you call an A player. One of the books that I loved, it was a bit dry and it was for giant corporations, but took so many lessons, was it's called Top Grading by Bradford Smart. And he talks about A players, and A players are, if you look in the mirror and you're an entrepreneur, you're an A player, right? You are passionate, you're loyal, you're trustworthy, you're kind of with it, you're responsible. Those people already have jobs. So that was a big lesson in starting to look farther forward and waiting to hire the right person. That was a big key in retention, was making sure that I had the right person. These things go hand in hand. Onboarding and training, it takes a while. It's not like you can just train somebody in 2 weeks and they are way up to speed. I think it takes on average like 2 months before somebody gets very, adept. So if you're going to spend that much time getting somebody up to speed, you damn well better make sure that they're right fit for your company. So
Right.
yes, create that culture. All of those things fit together. Training what people are, attracting the right person first to hire. And then I did find that training that culture really helped people give a passion. I mean, they found out that they were important. It didn't matter if they were a seasonal person who was cleaning rooms. There was a script that we had, and there was an expectation that they had of how they greeted people, and they needed to know their influence and their power. So yeah, they definitely go hand in hand, training those people and empowering them and helping them realize and understand their influence. That's something that I love to do. Because as a customer, I hate it when you go in and you're just thinking, oh, you're killing me, Smalls. First of all, pay attention to me, because I really want to spend my money. And number two, I know this owner, and they can't afford for you, small businesses, you can't afford to have bumps on a log or
That's
rude
right.
people. They make such a difference. So they've got to understand, like, yes, you're super freaking important. And that really does help with retention. So there's a whole ball of wax around that, but that is it barely in a nutshell for you.
So it sounds like, though, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's be interested, not necessarily interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea of culture, because that so often gets lost in, even in bigger, corporations, the Fortune 500 companies. It gets lost in the mix of the task-oriented training that you talked about earlier. There's really not a focus on culture so much anymore. And I love the fact that you're focusing on that. So I was just thinking, with the proliferation of the internet and this e-commerce platform that we now have, that has just blown up this year with all of the COVID related restrictions. It seems to me like I've seen a big increase in business strategists and business consultants and business coaches. And I'm curious, though, if I'm a business owner and I'm listening, I'm probably a little overwhelmed by it, right? Because everybody is a business expert, right? At least that's their pitch, right? So if I'm a business owner and I'm sitting down with somebody like yourself, a consultant, a coach, what are some of the key questions I need to be asking you during that interview?
That's a good question. I think of this a lot as like a doctor. There's lots of different doctors. Well, let's just take a general practitioner. The general practitioners are trained, and they have a little bit different specialty. When you pick a general practitioner, you don't have to just stick with the same one. You might not have whatever called love connection or whatnot. The same thing with real estate, right? Real estate agents are trained. They have the same base platform, but they have this different myriad out of experience. They have different personality. They have a different way of communicating. So if you are looking for an agent, it's okay to make sure, to sort of interview different agents and make sure that you connect well and that they communicate in a way that you expect. The same thing with a business coach. I've had a couple, my own, and some of them, I want someone just to be super direct. Let's get to the point. I mean, I told you earlier that I oftentimes a friend of mine said, you know what, Samantha, you need to just say however long you think it's going to take you to do something, you need to multiply it by 3. And I thought, oh, BS, that's no way. And yeah, pretty much that's true. There just so many things are so interesting. And I think that when you are looking for a coaching consultant, you can get somebody who's got, it just depends on what you're in, what you value. If you value that the person has their own practical experience, then, be aware of that. If you value that the person has a whole bunch of, letters behind their name, it make sure the person fits. You're not stuck with somebody. You continually improve. You have an expectation that you're going to learn from this person. And then you can also say, when you're kind of done with that learning space, you can part ways and go on to the next one. It's not like you're getting married to the person, and you're not making a lifelong commitment.
Right. You're dating.
So you asked me what kind of questions. I oftentimes will like what I do with my clients is I have, there's some things that I look for that they need to do. They need to be confident in what they know and what they do. Like they love what they do, but they also at the same time need to understand and know and feel like, I don't know everything. So I can learn something from somebody else. That's my personal attitude. And I also want to make sure that they're actually learning something. They have to be a continual learner, because I found that if they aren't, then they're not really going to be open to what I'm being able to help them with their business.
Yeah, they won't be a good fit. And I think finding, the right fit is so important because especially early on, right? Because I'm sure you can relate to this. I mean, early on in starting a business, you've got that pressure of getting the business started, but then you've got the financial pressure to perform, to stay open. And and there's a hesitation on a lot of business owners when they feel like they have to accept everyone as a client. They don't ever want to say no. And I think there's some power in saying no, right?
Yeah. And you're right. You may not at the beginning be able to afford to say no, but as you work and you get so busy and you're hitting that ceiling, like, oh my goodness, then you can start, you start going, oh, you know what? That's right. I don't need to take every single thing. I don't need to take every single client. Yeah. I think that's important.
So you mentioned purpose earlier. What's your purpose?
Oh gosh, you asked me this question. I hate this question.
Why do you hate it?
I guess because I almost want you to just call other people and say, what is your purpose? I guess you asked this question in your other podcast and you say, what's the legacy? And I was like, oh, I like that question better.
Yep, I did.
What's the meaning of life? I mean, I strongly believe we all have a God-given talent and we all need to find out what that is and then make a connection with people. I feel so passionate about helping small businesses succeed and helping people make connections.
Right.
They're all so valuable. And I don't care if you are, just out of college and this is a placeholder job, it is not just a placeholder job. You can meet so many people in front of you if you have the right attitude. And I'm super passionate, and I guess my purpose is to leave this world better. And the way I can do that is by helping people expand their vision and impact and their influence on their relationships. We have to make connections with people, especially now. We have this generation growing up, looking at their phones. They don't know how to interact with people. And now we are so divided as a country. It's like things are getting more and more contentious. Small businesses and medium businesses have a phenomenal opportunity right there coming through their doors every single day. Just to make that connection. There's some skills that we practiced over and over again. It's not always easy. It's simple, but it's not always easy because you are right. You said, be interested, not interesting.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears to a question that you probably will like. What's your legacy? Long term. I mean, what do you want your legacy to be 100, 200 years from now?
A book to leave for people who, have that resources, and also a training program that helps business owners. I'm creating it right now, so I'm pretty freaking excited about it. Trying to step into the nervousness. I've been wanting to do this for 6 years because we used one and it made such a difference, and it just catapulted our staff with creating this culture. They had to take this training before they even were hired. And it was, so I'm creating this program that owners can insert that helps their employees. It helps them to create a culture and to teach the skills because they're easy. They teach the tasks. And that's a big one for me, just to help people understand, like, they make a difference. They can make a connection with people every day, and they have an influence on not only the financial success of the business, but the trajectory of the person's day that is standing right in front of them. There's a ton of power in that. And it starts, I think your last person on your podcast, he had talked about goal setting, and you have these big goals, and it focus down to what you do every month, to what you do every week, to what you do every day, to what you plan for the hour. And the same thing with business. You make a huge difference that what you do with that person in front of you, it ripples out and has a very, very broad positive impact in your community. First in the business, first in yourself, then the business, then your community, and then the world. It definitely ripples out. I met some phenomenal people because I've had that attitude. I won't name drop, but
that's awesome.
It was amazing.
I love the idea of connections, and that's a powerful, powerful way to wind down the show. And again, for our listeners, we're chatting with Samantha Irwin, and she is a passionate, with a capital P, passionate supporter of small and mid-sized businesses. Check out her website, www.Kaizen, that's spelled Kaizen.Zone. Samantha, any parting words of wisdom as we wind down?
Oh my gosh. Yes, actually. Oh, good. Here's one. Just continue. Just take the next step. One of the examples is my husband and I wanted to reduce our garbage intake and how much plastic we were leaving as a legacy to people. Right. And so we ended up slowly taking step by step, just taking the next step. And we reduced our garbage intake to 2 cans to the curb for the year. So for the whole year. And this year we moved. And so truth be told, we had 3. But it didn't start. Rome wasn't built in a day. You just take the next step. That's it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Awesome interview, and enjoyed chatting with you, and appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. And I'm, thankful for you having me on. I appreciate it.